Welcome to Student Athletes Speak Out. We're pleased that you could be here with us today. I want to begin by thanking a few people who helped make this event happen. First of all, Kathy Martin in the Athletic Director's office for handling all the logistics. To Christy Zachary in my College of Education and Human Services and News Information for publicity. And also to Associate AD Mike Fergale in Sports Information and some of his staff, senior reporter Greg Schock, senior producer Greg Schock, for helping us live stream these speeches today throughout West Virginia. It's our hope that many students in the state will be watching this event either now or they can log on at any time later on and listening to some of the positive messages that will be presented. The first speaker listed on the invitation is actually not here. Amanda Hill is a senior from Washington, Pennsylvania, and she's traveling today with the nationally ranked women's soccer team to play Oklahoma State tomorrow. She has a double major in exercise physiology and animal and veterinary science, and she has been the team captain for 2 years. She will be speaking at another venue, but I wanted to recognize her since she is a member of this class. With that, we'll begin with our first speaker, who is majoring in communications, Georgia Baldus, a freshman in the Honors College, and Georgia is from Fort Wayne, Indiana. At Snyder High School, she was captain of the swim team and broke the record in the 200 free lay at conference. She was a News Sentinel All-Area Swim Team member for 4 years and was named All-State Athletic Conference 4 years and was a state qualifier in the 100 fly. She also swam for the Three Rivers Aquatic Club team. The title of Georgia's speech is A Model for Others.
Think about this. Is there someone in your life who motivates you to do better, to work harder, to achieve your goals? Fortunately, my entire life, I have been extremely blessed to have not only a major support system rooting for me, but also positive role models. If I had not, I feel that I would not be as confident in who I am. Certainly, I would not be as eager to try new things or to achieve success in both academics and athletics. Therefore, I believe that it is very important to surround ourselves with positive role models. A role model is someone who lives his or her life in such a way that others want to imitate them. Other than my parents, I have had 2 major role models. One is my former high school teacher, Miss Ely Fales. She was my junior year medical interventions teacher. She has taught me so much about life and how to live one that is meaningful. For example, she taught me about the importance of wholesomeness in friendship and how important it is to steer away from gossip and how to concentrate on being there for each other. We still keep in contact weekly, and I know she is always there for me. My other major role model is my former high school swim coach. He taught me so much about swimming. Other than swimming, he taught me the experience of swimming teaches life lessons, such as dependability, reliability, and being part of a team. He also reminded me that it wasn't about making other people happy. Rather, it was about making myself happy, as well as enjoying myself in the sport. In addition, not all role models are people you know personally. For example, let's take a look at singer and performer Taylor Swift. Swift's talents go beyond singing and performing. She is also a talented motivator and a positive influence. She believes in self-confidence and highly encourages others to think the same. One website stated this: "The singer considers it her responsibility to be conscious of her influence on young fans." A Rolling Stone journalist who profiled Swift in 2009 remarked upon her polite manners. He said, "If this is Swift's game face, it must be tattooed on because it never drops." She is a perfect example of how someone you really do not know can have a positive impact. Keep in mind, there are special qualities and characteristics that make people role models. Taylor Swift is one who keeps her image true to herself. There are no surprises. Some other qualities include respectfulness, gratitude, humility, drive, reliability, confidence, and compassion. And this is the important part. When someone begins to impact your life in a positive way, you'll notice that you'll begin to look at your life and react differently. You may approach situations without getting irritated or angry. You may be kinder to someone who used to annoy you. You may be kinder to yourself and alleviate stress. You may become more confident and caring. You may find that you have drive to succeed academically, athletically, and in relationships. My positive role models have helped me to achieve all of the above. Because I've had these positive people in my life, I now strive to be a positive light for other people as well, for many reasons. One is because studies show that you become more like the people you surround yourself with. That's why choosing your friends, the people who you do surround yourself with, is so important. Finally, I believe in the words of civil rights activists who refused to surrender her seat to a white passenger in an effort to end segregation, Rosa Parks, who said, "Each person must live his or her life as a model for others," and she certainly did.
Okay, I'm going to have each one of these athletes have an opportunity to recognize anybody in the audience who's attending on their behalf. So Georgia.
I'd like to thank Jen for being here. She's my academic advisor.
Actually, Jen might be the academic advisor
Yeah.
for most of these people. So yes, thank you. Well, public speaking can be rather stressful. And I know that there's nobody up here who's looking forward to this more than our next speaker. And that is Colton McKivitz, a freshman from Belmont, Ohio, who is majoring in wildlife and forestries. Periodically, I tell him that this will be his favorite class. And when I say that, he says, and I quote, "Hunting. I have a hunting class. I like hunting." He really doesn't want anything to do with this, but he's doing a good job anyway. At Union Local High School, he played center on the basketball team, and he also played both tackle and defensive end on the football team. He was recruited as a defensive lineman for WVU. And according to smokingmusket.com, he originally committed to Miami of Ohio before taking an official visit to WVU. And anyone who's ever been to Morgantown can attest that it's difficult to turn down a place that's almost heaven. So we're glad that he made the right choice. Colton's speech is titled, "Not My Best Friend."
I don't know about the rest of you, but I like to relax when I'm doing my homework, and that usually means being in bed with the TV turned on, and that creates a problem. Why? Because I find myself watching or listening to the TV instead of focusing on my homework. Distractions keep us from completing or living to the fullest, and they keep us from being the best possible student, athlete, friend, or family member. There are many types of distractions, and most of them today involve technology, like TV, game systems, internet, and cell phones. You can always find a distraction if you're looking for one. In my case, turning on the TV provides background noise, but it causes me to lose focus. Some people find distractions because they either don't want to do it or they want to put it off. For example, they may be on their cell phones or surfing the web, or they may go out with their friends, or they may simply resort to eating. Unfortunately, technology often keeps us from being active outside and keeps us from being involved in sports. Even though today's distractions are a lot different from what they were decades ago, they still cause the same problem, and that is inevitably the ability to concentrate, which prevents us from being the best that we can be. It's one thing to go out with your friends. However, when you add another layer to that, like drinking alcohol or doing drugs, the problem is magnified. If someone wants to perform at the best of his or her ability, then why take the chance at hurting a career, whether it's academic or sports, because of drugs or alcohol or just simply for fun? Someone who wants to succeed in life will do everything possible to do so and will strive to do it in the right way. If you want to make good grades, then you can do that. If you want to be a good athlete, then you can do that. If you want to be a leader, then you also can do that. If you want to perform well in a job interview, then you can do that. All it takes is concentration, goal setting, and hard work, and that is unlikely to happen if you live on your cell phone. Finally, and this is the most critical point, distractions keep us from meeting the best people we could ever know because they prevent us from human contact. While cell phones help us connect with the world, they often prevent us from connecting with the people right beside us. For example, many of us get to our biology class early. Instead of talking to each other, we always look down at our cell phones. The same behavior is apparent on campus while walking around. There are people who can nearly run into you because they're so busy looking down. How can we ever hope to make contact with others if we never look up? When I go out with my friends, we don't have a lot of conversation on the way there. But fortunately, once we get there, we do. Our football coaches have a zero tolerance policy for cell phones on the sidelines. If we use them, a punishment follows. The same is true for game weekends. The night before a game, you can be on the internet. We are not permitted to be on social media from 5 p.m. on. The same policy is in effect for 3 hours before the game, and that forces us to focus and bond with our teammates before the game. I'm kind of used to that type of enforcement because cell phones were not permitted at family dinners. I'm very close to my parents and younger sister. I can't imagine anything else being more important than talking to them. I'm sure the day will come for many that they wish they had the opportunity to go back in time and talk to the members of their family. And to reverse that, I feel sorry for the children who are trying to show their parents something new that they have learned when parents are too engrossed on their cell phones and those childhood memories are lost. Steven Spielberg's quote captures my feelings. He said, "Technology can be our best friend, and technology can also be our biggest party pooper of our lives. It interrupts our own story. It interrupts our ability to have a thought or a daydream or to imagine something wonderful because we're too busy bridging the walk from the cafeteria back to the office on our cell phone." I want to thank Devon Franklin for coming. He's my academic advisor, and also for Brady and Coach Joe for coming. Thank you.
So see, we do a lot of face-to-face speaking in our class, don't we? So that's good. All right, I'm going to change the order a little bit here because this class really is a Tuesday class, and we had to change to Thursday, and because of that, my students have had to make some adjustments too in their academic schedule. Our next speaker has a chemistry test on main campus at noon, so I'm going to move Adam Poe up so he can speak and then leave because we don't want to interfere with academics here, okay? Adam is from St. Albans, and he is a freshman who wants to major in engineering. He was captain of the swim team at South Charleston High, a two-time member of the West Virginia All-State team, state champion in the 100 fly, and runner-up in the 50-yard freestyle as a junior, and 50-yard freestyle state champion and runner-up in the 100 free as a senior. He was named the 2014 USA Swimming Scholastic All-America, and the title of Adam's speech is, "It's Who You Think You're Not."
I related well to my club swim coach in high school because we both had anxieties. During one of our conversations, he quoted one line in a song by Ben Howard. It was, "I will become what I deserve." Those words had a very profound effect on me. As a matter of fact, I still think about them quite often, whether it is during a swim meet, studying for a big exam, or presenting a speech. Most people struggle with overcoming obstacles in order to be successful. It may involve hard work, difficult people, and even stressful circumstances. I was always anxious about competition and exams, and that hindered me throughout the years, sometimes even preventing me from reaching my true potential, both in the classroom and in athletics. I finally figured out the method to overcoming my anxiety. Sometimes we have a mental block that is like a wall that prevents us from moving forward. Therefore, it is important to deal with that initially. It is not uncommon to hear that little voice inside your head that says, you cannot, you will not, or you did not. Before taking an exam or getting ready for a race, I would have those types of thoughts. For example, I would remember my past failures. Those negative thoughts often prevented peak performance and hindered success. Even multiple attempts to calm down just didn't work. How could my performance be positive when all my thoughts were negative? It was like a vicious cycle. My fear of failure resulted in my inability to succeed. I realize now that my fear primarily was caused by self-doubt and lack of confidence. Instead of focusing on my goal, I dwelled on failure, and the pit in my stomach was sickening. I remember most situations when I failed or came up short. Having high expectations did not help because I was never satisfied with what I did. I overthought every aspect of what I was doing, thus completing the cycle. So what did I do to overcome this problem? My solution was based on a quote by former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. In sports competition, your competitors say and do things to get into your head and psych you out. For example, they might tell you why their training regimen is better or why they are faster than you are. And there are always fans for the other side who can distract you. My competitors knew that I was a pretty easy target for this behavior, and they exploited it. I finally figured that out, and I knew that I had to overcome it. That was my epiphany. I had to change my mental attitude. Second, I had to work hard to be the best that I could be, whether it was in academics or athletics. So I put more effort in. I worked harder. I focused on what I needed to work on, whether it was a technique in the pool or a difficult school subject. Knowing that I gave all that I could give was a confidence booster. I also had a conversation with my mom and dad about it. They reminded me that they didn't care about the outcomes as long as I tried my best. Their love and support were motivating factors. Slowly, I began to believe in myself. Confidence building doesn't happen overnight. It takes mental, physical, and emotional toughness. I realized that exams or competitions, while important, were not life or death matters. In summary, I struggled with negative thoughts for many years, but I am here to say that it's not impossible to overcome. Everyone, even professional athletes, sometimes have self-doubt and negative thoughts. It has been said that life is a journey, full of challenges and experiences that will make you who you are. So, if you ever feel like you cannot do something because of what you tell yourself or what someone else said, change that mindset. Believe in yourself, and nothing is impossible. After all, it's not who you are that holds you back, it's who you think you're not. Yeah. I'd like to thank my coach Damien for coming out today, as long as a couple of my teammates as well. So, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, you are dismissed. An exercise physiology major who is a senior from Washington, Pennsylvania, diver Lindsay Schmidt is also a member of the Honors College, and she's been a member of the Academic All-Big 12 First Team, the Academic All-Big 12 Rookie Team, the Garrett Ford Academic Honor Roll, the Big 12 Commissioner Honor Roll, and the Dean's List. She placed in the 1 meter and 3 meter at the NCAA Zone A Championships, and she was CSCAA All-American Honorable Mention. The title of Lindsay's speech is "The Odds Just Don't Matter."
I remember it well. It was the high school district diving championship at Upper Dublin High School. The 30 of us were under extreme stress. because making the top 7 and getting to states is every high school diver's dream. The smallest mistake on any of our 11 dives could completely ruin our chances. I had made states every year before, and I was ranked first going into the competition. I felt confident and ready to dominate. But then the unthinkable happened. I failed my 3rd dive of the competition. It would be difficult to beat the odds to achieve my goal, but I did it. When it first happened, I completely broke down. I sat in the corner and cried my heart out. As a matter of fact, if you Google my name with the word diving, my crying picture will be the first one to appear. I believed I was watching all of my dreams go down the drain. All I wanted to do was feel sorry for myself. A quick talk with my coach made me realize that many had been hoping to see me fail, especially the competing divers. He stressed that although others thought I was out of the running, he knew otherwise. Listening to his motivational words gave me a change of heart. So I had a new goal, to prove them wrong, even though the odds were against me. I had about 10 minutes to recuperate between dives. I wiped the tears away, put on a brave face, and stepped back on the board for my next dive. All eyes were on me. This was a make it or break it moment. I had to hit the dive to make up for lost scores and lost confidence. I took a deep breath and let my body do exactly what it knew how to do. In diving terms, I ripped it. I had never done that dive in competition as well as I had just done it. I was proud of myself. What did I learn from that experience? I was reminded that life is filled with complications that often interfere with our plans, such as reaching our goals. When we stumble, it is imperative to get up and to try again. We must prove to others, but more importantly to ourselves, that we are capable and we can do it. I had climbed back up to the top 7 by my last dive. I was going to states, and everyone was in complete awe. I had held my composure and my confidence throughout the rest of this very long competition, and came back from what many had thought there was no return. All odds were against me, but I had proven them wrong. I should add that that was not my first time I had to beat the odds. By the age of 3, my first love was gymnastics. I practiced 24 hours a week between the ages of 8 and 13. Then I experienced a back injury that ended my gymnastics career. Once again, I was upset. However, my mother, who was also a former gymnast who became a diver at West Virginia, convinced me that I could also excel at the sport. I learned to never allow people's doubts to keep me from working towards something that I know I can achieve. There will always be naysayers, but I will never allow them to affect how I view myself or how I perform. Instead, I will focus and put all of my effort into beating the odds. After all, if my dreams are big enough, and they are, the odds just don't matter. I would like to thank our strength and conditioning coach, Beth, for being here, and some teammates as well.
Okay. I'm going to change the speaking order again because our next speaker probably will get to stay for the entire event, but just in case, he has a class downtown at 12:30. Bailey Faust is a freshman from Lexington, Ohio, who plans to major in mechanical engineering. He holds Lexington High's single-season record for 43 pins and 54 wins from his junior season. He was 3-time Ohio Cardinal Conference champion and 2014 Ohio Cardinal Conference Wrestler of the Year. He was also named to the 2014 Intermat All-Tournament team and was a 2-time Flow Nationals All-American. The title of Bailey's speech is Results You Didn't Get.
Even though he is quite an accomplished rap artist, I never thought of quoting him in a setting quite like this. But according to Snoop Dogg, it's so easy for a kid to join a gang, to do drugs, we should make it that easy to be involved in football and academics. I can relate to that because it was very easy to be involved in sports as a child. However, academics was something else. Growing up in a small town was great. I awoke every morning in the summer and rode dirt bikes until the sun went down. Even during the school year, I just waited to get out of school so I could go practice or ride again. Until high school, I just thought of school as something I had to do. I never really cared about it. As a result, my grades suffered, and I was close to having to enroll in summer school every year, even in my junior high when I almost failed. When I observed my older brother and the recruiting process, I figured out that grades do matter, regardless of the circumstances. Academics are more important to life than any sport or dream that you can imagine. In elementary school, let me tell you my story. In elementary school, I did enough just to get promoted. However, I was a star in gym class. I had the greatest gym teacher. When we played dodgeball, she would say, "Don't throw it to Bailey. He is going to catch it." As a matter of fact, in my senior year, we had to write a paper to a former teacher who made us a better person, and I chose her. In middle school, I was still struggling. I got my first F, and it was in English. Fortunately, I was able to take advantage of some bonus activities, which raised my grade to a D. So I was still academically eligible to play sports, which was all I really cared about. In high school, I had a 2.4 and still didn't care. Fortunately, it was my freshman year when I realized that a 2.4 would never allow me to play D1, to receive a D1 scholarship to wrestle. I also watched a person who was a 2-time state champ and had a 2.2 who never received a scholarship to D1 because of his grades. Therefore, I got my act together and ended my high school career with a 3.5. Currently, I am a college freshman majoring in mechanical engineering, and I understand that good grades will impact my career and my future in many ways. Unfortunately, some of my friends are going to learn the hard way. Many of them are currently employed in hard labor jobs that pay a little above minimum wage, and they are no different than many others. According to the latest statistics in the Washington Post, 20% of students don't graduate high school, typically because of poor grades. That is 718,000 young adults. The National Center for Education Statistics puts the dropout rate of high schoolers at 7%. The Huffington Post states that nearly 12% of people never attended college by the age of 26. And finally, according to the National Student Clearinghouse, 55% drop out of college for either academic or financial reasons. Throughout my life, my father always told me that I had to be really good at one thing, either sports or academics. What he was really saying was that while I didn't have to have a 4.0, but that my earlier grades were unacceptable, there is no question that academics is the main thing. A good athlete with a strong academic record, that is, high GPA and good standardized test scores, is an easy recruit. And take it from me, an athletic scholarship, or any type of scholarship for that matter, is not only impressive, but very financially helpful. A strong academic record results in additional opportunities, more choices in life, respect from teachers and peers, and self-respect. So, if you are like I was, unmotivated or maybe lazy, uncaring or uninterested, remember this: don't be upset with the results you didn't get because of the work you didn't do. And I would like to thank Coach Henson for coming, and Jen Manville, as well as Joseph Heskett.
Good, great, thanks. Another member of the Honors College, as well as the Big 12 Commissioner's Honor Roll, is Nate Carr, a biology major who attended Charleston Catholic High School, where he was a 4-year letterman. In 2014-15, he was All Big 12 first team, had academic All Big 12 honors, placed first in the 200 free against Villanova, broke a WVU natatorium record in the 200 IM against TCU, and placed third in the A Final 200 IM, breaking a WVU team record. Currently, he is the Big 12 Men's Swimmer of the Week, and Nate will tell you about standing out.
Bruce Lee once said, "I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine." If you are struggling with peer pressure, those are good words to live by. It's imperative to ignore peer pressure and to accept ourselves for who we are, so that others may accept us as well. One of the causes of succumbing to peer pressure is a lack of self-confidence. Struggling with confidence is an overlooked struggle that so many deal with on a daily basis. If we cannot feel secure about who we are, simple tasks can become extremely challenging. For example, selecting clothes in the morning is difficult when you're so worried about what others are going to think of your fashion choices. Having the confidence to shoot a basketball or to step up to the plate in baseball also can be difficult. Eating lunch can be problematic if we're too concerned that our friends may be considered lame to others. When we develop confidence and accept ourselves, we can achieve anything in our wildest dreams. That being said, if we can be comfortable with our choices, then we can be comfortable with ourselves. We're always faced with forks in the road. Sometimes there may be pressure to go down the path that others may see as cool, but in the end, that can have negative consequences. For example, drinking is often encouraged in high school by many friends, and that was relatively easy for me to ignore because my focus was always sports. It was more important for me to obtain a swimming scholarship to pay for my education than to have a few wild nights out with my friends. Fortunately, my friends understood that and supported me and continue to support me to this day. If they hadn't been supportive, then they wouldn't have been considered my friends. Often, students, whether in high school or college, get into the party scene. When that happens, it's not unusual to see arrests, DUIs, underage drinking, or suspensions from school. It's important that we weigh out the consequences and choose the outcome that will benefit us the greatest. It should be a good decision, one we're comfortable with. For example, it is much more important for me to stay in and rest the night before a meet than it is to party with my friends. If I'm in a situation where I feel uncomfortable, the choice that I make is simple: I'll leave. Negative peer pressure is everywhere. I even experience it to this day. The bottom line is that I participate in activities I'm content with, and I avoid the activities that are just not for me. I don't do something just to maintain an image. And the next step is simple. Once we have accepted ourselves and we're comfortable with our decision making, it's time to weed out the bad seeds around us. There are going to be people who want to see us fail, who want to bring us down. They are afraid of the success that can come from a confident human being, one who is not led by others. Once we have achieved our full levels of confidence, our limits are endless. It is then that we can set important goals for ourselves and surround ourselves with people who will help us achieve our goals. We must develop a support system of people who understand what it is that we are trying to achieve. We should keep those who do not appreciate our goals distant. We must remind ourselves there's a huge difference between being confident and being cocky. Cockiness relies on the outward expression of our motives and the constant necessity for others to acknowledge what we are doing. Cockiness gets in the way of others trying to accept us. Cockiness can cloud our minds, can make us lose focus on what should be motivating us in the first place. On the other hand, confidence helps us to remain calm. It helps us to remain calm people who do not need the constant approval of others. Confident people understand inside that what they are doing will benefit them the most. They do not need to constantly prove themselves to others. Confident individuals allow their actions to speak for them. They understand that human potential has no limits. Pope John XXIII stated, "Consult not your fears, but your hopes and your dreams." Think not about your frustrations, but about your unfulfilled potential. Concern yourself not with what you tried and failed in, but what is still possible for you to do. In conclusion, it doesn't matter if negative people accept us. We must accept ourselves. And then we can do wonders. If we keep trying to fit in, we'll never stand out. And I'd just like to thank my teammates, friends, and my dad, who's all the way here from Charleston, for coming.
Where's your dad? Very good. Thank you. Glad you came. Our final speaker is a senior in sport exercise who also is a member of the Honors College, Morgan Empter from Mason, Ohio. She had top times in the 100-yard and 200-yard breaststroke at the Big 12 Championship and in the 100-yard butterfly at the Mizzou Invite. She was named to the Academic All-Big 12 Rookie Team, the Academic All-Big 12 First Team, the Garrett Ford Academic Honor Roll, the Big 12 Commissioner's Honor Roll, the Dean's List, and the President's List. This is really a smart class, right? I think saying all this today reminded me of that. In addition, she is a leader in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and the title of Morgan's speech is Walking Down a Different Path.
Growing up, it was my mom, my dad, my younger sister Caitlin, and me. I wish that I could say it was a carefree childhood, but unfortunately that was not the case. Although I love my family and I know that they love me, my parents had relationship issues, which in turn had its effect on my perception of relationships. We're all on different roads in life, but we need to remember that we have the choice to change directions and choose a different path. My journey was not an easy one. First, the relationship problems between our parents had its effects on Kate and me, whether it was positively or negatively. When I was 5, they finally got a divorce. My dad disappeared for 2 years, and when he came back, we went to the court-mandated alternating weekends and every Wednesday with him. When we spent time at our dad's house, it was scary because we remembered the anger that he would display before the divorce. But when I was scared, I tried to hide it from my sister so that she wouldn't see the fear that I had. Which brings me to my second point. I became a protector for my sister. At the time, I didn't think of it as a burden because I loved her, and I didn't want her to feel what I felt. But looking back, I realized it was a very stressful situation for an 8-year-old to try and cover up the choices and the relationship issues for a 5-year-old. That's the responsibility of an adult, and at 8 years old, I was not an adult. For example, if I could tell something was bothering her, we would go on a walk, or we would go to the park, or I would even make play with your sister days, kind of like Mother's Day, but she had to play with me. By the time I reached high school, I identified with a curse. I believed that because my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt all experienced relationship issues, that I was destined to follow the same suit. But I accepted that. Actually, I had a conversation with a friend who wanted to be a divorce lawyer, and I said, I'll call you when I get a divorce. Not if, but when. When I was a sophomore in college, my dad was put into a coma in the hospital, and I learned that it bothered me. I didn't think it would, but it did. So I sought guidance from the Fellowship of Christian Athletes women's chaplain, Teresa, and that began my journey of forming a new relationship, one with Jesus. Teresa walked with me in love and patience, and God revealed himself in my life. For the first time, I had a different manner of living, there was a different option, and there was so much freedom from the past. I could see my life so much clearer, and the curse that I had imagined was based on other people's choices that I had mistakenly claimed. Those were their choices and not mine. My choice is to pursue Jesus first. And that realization began my heart's transformation. During the same semester, and it's funny how God works, I was in a life choices class, and it was taught by a trauma counselor. On the first day, she assigned us numbers 1 through 4. I was a 2, and every class after that, she gave us the option to change our numbers. I always stayed at 2. At the end of the semester, she put us into groups with our numbers, and she gave us these statements. The first statement said, I'm walking down the road, I fall in a hole. The second path was, I was walking down the road, I see the hole, and I fall in the hole. The third, I'm walking down the road, I see the hole, I walk around the hole, but eventually I fall in. And the fourth, I was walking down the road, I see the hole, and I choose a different path. Like I said, when I began, I was a 2, but when I left, I was a 4. I walked down a different path, and my path is and was God. Thank you.
Guess what? She wasn't our last speaker because I forgot somebody. My fault, and I'm sorry. I apologize to the people live streaming this. All right, so let's go back to one other person here, and that is our last speaker, our real last speaker, public relations major Sydney Karam, who is a freshman from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. She attended Bethlehem Catholic High School. She won the Swimmer of the PLAA Meet Award 3 times and was a 4-time district winner. She also won 8 medals at the Pennsylvania State Meet. The title of Sydney's speech is The Sport Called Life.
If you Google Sage Karam, this is what you will find. Sage Karam is an American racing driver from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. The 19-year-old Indy 500 rookie has danced in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway paddock at a makeshift prom. He was runner-up to Scott Dixon in the pit crew competition and became an instant fan favorite and media darling with his carefree persona. Another comment you may find in this is he has a younger sister, a swimmer. I'm Sydney, the younger sister, the swimmer. Although I love my brother, growing up in his shadow wasn't always easy. As children, we were always close, especially since he is only 1 year older than I am. We did everything together. We had a very close relationship growing up. He was always there for me. I spent most of my time hanging out with him and my cousins, just hanging out and always having a good time. He was always very protective of me and always had my back. He was always there for me whenever and wherever I needed him. As we grew up, we developed interests. Mine was swimming and his was racing. He started in go-karts, which had a time-demanding schedule. He was always traveling and on the go, usually with my father. I stayed at home most of the time and trained swimming with my mother. When he was about 16, he won the Indy Light Series, which was a huge turning point in his life. At that point, things began to change a little, not only for him, but also for our family. Because of this success, members of the media visited our home quite frequently. For example, it wasn't unusual for him to be interviewed by Sports Illustrated, NBC Sports, ESPN, and the New York Times. At first, it was new, cool, and very exciting. I was really proud of him. When I was 14, I got asked by a Sports Illustrated journalist during a photo shoot, what's it like to not be the sibling in the limelight? Being young, that question stuck in my mind for quite some time. When I was about 15, I started to feel a little neglected. Both my parents were required to travel with my brother, which meant I was as well. When monthly traveling started to affect my swimming schedule, I started to become more upset. I was missing practices, meets, and even school. I began to feel like I was drifting away from not only my friends at home, but also my cousins with whom I spent most of my time with while I was at home. Therefore, as a 15-year-old, I began to feel unimportant to my family, and I found myself seeking out attention more often by rebelling. I began to ignore my parents. I wasn't clear about communicating, and when my brother asked me something, I usually always responded with a flip or a backhand remark. As a result, my parents had many talks with me. They knew that I felt neglected and I had negative thoughts and constant feelings of unimportance. They made it clear that they loved me and that in our house there is no such thing as someone who is referred to as a silver or a golden child. When Sage turned 18, he moved up to be a professional in the IndyCar series, and I began to realize both the importance and positives of what he does. I was maturing, which made things much easier to understand and communicate about. This resulted in a huge awakening for me. I realized that I should not be jealous. Instead, I began to embrace it. And I even found positives in being the more publicly shy sibling. It took time, but I finally understood that at the end of the day, our parents loved both of us exactly the same. And the bottom line was that his schedule was simply more demanding than mine was. So I traded my feelings of jealousy for a feeling of pride. Now when I'm asked by interviewers how it feels to be the sibling in the limelight, my response is always the same. It's pretty awesome. I think a lot of kids growing up experiencing the same situation in one form or another. As a society, we are constantly throwing around the terms golden child or star child in a joking manner, but these simply do not exist, and in most cases, they are taken the wrong way. At the end of the day, parents love each of their children equally. Sometimes siblings have the understanding that this is not right, and they resort to negative actions, which is not a healthy strategy. This quote helps to summarize the feelings of my life growing up. Spending childhood with an older brother is the best practice you can get to master the sport called life. I want to thank all of my teammates and friends that came out today and both of my coaches, Damien and Beth. Thank you.
All right. If you know somebody who might be interested in listening to our speeches, as the invitation says, they will be posted on wvusports.com and sayso.wvu.edu after the event. Now, I just want to close by saying on Friday and Saturday, the swimmers take on Butler, Seton Hall, and Xavier in the Big 12 versus the Big East meet. And football, of course, has a bye this week, so Colton will be doing absolutely nothing in order to get ready for Thursday night's game at TCU. Does anybody have any questions for us today? I want to thank you for coming.